It is a scene we are seeing across the country. Protests sparked by two grand jury decisions. In both cases, officers were not indicted in the deaths of unarmed black men. But what needs to be done to repair the mistrust between those who protect and serve and a community in mourning? Joining me now to discuss, HLN legal contributor Joey Jackson and Jesus Villahermosa. He is a former deputy sheriff and now teaches safety and awareness tactics for dangerous situations. Gentlemen, thank you for being with me. You know, I'm looking here for solutions. We're not looking to debate what happened. We want to talk about solutions. Joey, first to you. What do you believe needs to be done to repair this seemingly broken relationship?
Good morning, Lynn. Good morning, Jesus. Look, the issue comes down to public trust, and that's what starts first. I think when you have a process, Lynn, where you could engender trust, where people could respect the outcome of the case, I think it starts there. And that leads me into a real dedicated effort with the community and elected leaders to work together on maybe reforming that process and working with the community so they can build that trust, to have a system where there's some independence that's brought to bear. So when there's a presentation made, it's not with a local prosecutor who knows the police, works with the police, relies and trusts them. It's with some independent outside entity. It starts with religious leaders. It starts with members of the community themselves. And it starts with policing where there's mutual respect. The community respects and trusts the police, and the police respect and trust those people that they're working to support and to protect. And I think if we engage the discussion there, we'll go a long way of moving this forward and having some type of reforms.
And Joey, you talked about that yesterday as well, as far as this special prosecutor, and that you believe there's a relationship between, and you say there is a relationship, and that may not lead to justice. Jesus, to you, do you believe that's the case, and what do you think needs to be done?
Well, again, I agree with Joey in that I think the big piece has to be, you know, we've talked about community-oriented policing for so many years, and I can tell you, you know, I was in law enforcement up until April of this year for 33 years. Where I retired as a sergeant, so I supervised officers and held them very accountable for their interactions with the public. And in the Pierce County Sheriff's Department, we take those concerns very seriously. And so for me, I agree that we have to get back to some grassroots, if you will, policing, where we are knocking on doors, meeting the business owners, when we are at calls, that we are giving resources to citizens that show that, you know, this isn't just about this call. What's the ripple effect of this call in the community, and how can we mitigate another occurrence of an event down the road? And I practiced that for decades, and our department does a great job of doing it. And I can tell you the outcome was phenomenal. To have the public, and I left my job loving my job. I mean, I really did. It was very difficult for me to retire because I had such great relationships, and so did our officers, with the public. And so when something occurred of what you're seeing at this magnitude, of course there's always going to be concern. But there was always a little bit more trust from the public about, well, let's wait for the outcome.
Right. Let's see where the investigation goes. But to both of you, you're talking about what we can do when we have time, when we have resources. In both of these cases, these were split seconds. And Jesus, I'm sure you'll be able to speak to the law enforcement's point of view as far as their safety for themselves. And I'm sure that there is the position of those people that are in the moment of defending themselves when they feel like they're being unjustly arrested. So what do we do about those split-second law enforcement decisions so it does not lead to an unnecessary death? Jesus, let me first go to you on that.
Well, you know, it is a split-second decision, Lynn. I have been involved in situations. I've had someone literally struggle for my gun for my life. And it is a split-second decision when you have to decide, how far do I go? Because at this point, am I going to be disarmed with my own weapon and killed with it? And it's not just your gun. It's am I going to get beat to death? Am I going to get pounded to death by someone who's larger than me? Because I'm not the biggest cop in the world. And so I had to deal with those issues all the time. And so the right now of it is that, again, what training do we have that we're giving our officers that are saying, hey, these split-second decisions you have to make, you've got to be able to articulate that imminent threat of harm to yourself. But conversely, you can't, not every officer can just all of a sudden say, well, everything's an imminent threat of harm. And so where's that balance come? And that's where the hiring and the training of officers is critical. So it is a split-second decision. From the citizen's perspective, I can tell you I absolutely can empathize with the frustration of the African-American community and the disparities in the judicial system that we've seen for decades now and are well documented. And conversely, you know, if an officer comes up to you, you have the right as a citizen to say, okay, can you tell me what it is you're stopping me for? because if it's just a social contact, you have the right to walk away.
So, Joey, to you, does that go down to really how you approach an officer and the communication so that that split-second decision doesn't have to be made?
Yes, it goes both ways, Lynn. My dad was a police officer. May he rest in peace. I was a former prosecutor working with the police. They have a difficult job. They do their job. They do it well for the most part. But what it comes down to is courtesy, professionalism, and respect. And when you have members of the community who know the people who are the police in their communities, who have a relationship with those people in the communities, there's more of a trust. And that starts with good decision-making, and it ends, you know, hopefully in a just resolution and a just outcome. So we should continue this conversation, Lynn. It's a great conversation to have, and hopefully in the future we could avoid instances like this.
And gentlemen, this is the conversation that needs to have solutions, not just the problem. Joey and Jesus, thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you,
Thank
Lynn.
you so much. Take care.